Kingsbury scheme is a little stagnant. It falls off the cliff. His offenses regress. What are you seeing from an X's and O's standpoint with this offense and Jayden Daniels under Cliff Kingsbury and what they're doing differently than what we saw in the second half of this year?
I think the biggest thing is when they run their no huddle, one, they can either stay with the same people on the field on an all-time basis. You knew that as the defender. Then the no-huddle pace hurts you. Or they'll switch and rotate out personnels. And then what's happening is while you defensively have the opportunity to get guys on the field, you don't really have the time to like everybody make the right call, get into the right. So the constant challenge intellectually or mentally that the no-huddle presents to a defense is a big deal. And then when you cut on their tape, Alex and I were just talking about this. Like when I turn on the Houston Texans tape from Bobby Slowick, oh, it comes from this tree. So you know this is the group of plays. This offense throws so much at you. There's so much scheme that gets thrown at you on top of it with that no huddle. And it's unlike anything else most defenses see. You know, like, Chris, they took college stuff where they had the receivers basically like 2 yards from the sideline. So imagine spread out all the way, like 2 yards from the sideline, and then they run the ball. Everyone's gone in the middle of the field. Defenses in the NFL don't see that. So I think there's just a lot you have to pay attention to.
Dan, we're really big on take integrity on this show, and you're going to pay up your bet and eat the Skyline chili because the Bengals did not make the playoffs. Well, hold on. I'm leading you down a good path. Stick with me here. But since we are going to hold you accountable for your Bengals take, I also want to give you the opportunity to take a victory lap because this went viral last night on social media. Okay. February of last year, you said, if I was the Chicago Bears, I would take Jayden Daniels.
Thanks, Moss.
I got your back, Dan. What was it in that moment a year ago where you said, this guy is the one?
Well, I think when you watched his tape, a couple of things that stood out that you truly believe were transferable to the NFL. Number one, if you have fast eyes, you'll play in the NFL for a long time. What I mean by that is like when your eyes see something, it tells you what to do with the ball, whether it's a blitz, it's a coverage, it's a rotation, it's a vacancy. When your eyes play fast, you're going to play well in the NFL too. The ball placement was real. I always say this, accuracy is thrown to my guy, ball placement thrown away from the defender. His ball placement was very real. That's real life in the NFL playing quarterback. Guys are covered all the time. You got to throw guys open. And then I truly believed when you watched him play at LSU, it wasn't, oh my gosh, the first guy designed on, I mean, that throw's dumb. Right?
Man, he just walk it to De'Ami Brown. You can't walk it to him better.
You watched him get to like, a second guy, a third guy, the progression ability. And so like when you see that consistent, you're like, oh yeah, that's what it looks like in the league.
Dan, let's talk about the Detroit part of it. What are they supposed to do now?
Heartbroken. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And the toughest part is watching. When you watch the game and then you watch the tape, you're like, oh, they panicked. You know, like they panicked. What they've made everybody else do for what feels like 2-3 years. They panicked. And I thought Jared, as much as I love him, he played like the most non-Jared Goff game in 3 or 4 years. Just forcing the football like that. That guy was wide open right there, that tight end right there, but then he just forces it over his head. So what do they do next? I mean, more than likely, at least, Shefty's reporting, they're going to lose both coordinators. That's devastating. I think the Ben Johnson loss is going to be devastating. So they're going to have to figure out who are going to be their coordinators that allow them or try to allow them to not skip a beat. They're going to be fine. But it does feel like, man, that 2-year window where they had such a great opportunity is going to have to start a new window.
Dan, a team that we don't talk about is the Kansas City Chiefs just because there is an inevitability to them. But one of the things that came out of Saturday's win was what we saw with Patrick Mahomes trying to bait defenders into getting personal fouls, late hits on the sideline, sliding late. How do you think the NFL and the competition committee specifically needs to address that issue this offseason?
Well, let me talk about it with Patrick's perspective first. And defenders, stop falling for it then. Here's the
thank you.
Stop falling for it. And that would be, if you're Sean McDermott, like your message to Buffalo, what is the reward for us? Oh, we're gonna knock him out of the game? No, you're not. It's Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to knock him out of the game. So so don't even buy into it because he's going to tempt you or bait you. I think a lot of the quarterbacks do. I don't know if there's a fix, Chris. Like, I don't know if there's a fix. Like, I've said this. The only way it's really going to deter the quarterbacks from doing it is when one of them gets knocked out off of a hit like that and it really really matters. Like Trevor Lawrence, if they were the number 1 seed in the AFC Championship game and he does it, with the Aziz Al-Shaair hit, and he kind of baits him a little bit, and oh my gosh, he's out of the game and now we lose it. That's the only way I think you're going to really impact it.
Good. I'm so glad you said that. Why would he stop doing it if it works? People are yelling. I'm literally sitting at my kids' basketball games yesterday, and people are saying, well, not just because the name of our show. It's so unsportsmanlike what he does. What would you like him to do if he's going to get a 15-yard penalty just by waiting an extra split second and doesn't get hurt? Why would he ever stop doing that?
I also don't know if he's waiting that extra second strictly for the hopes and fingers crossed of getting the flag, or he's like,
oh, come on.
If you do something, I'll do something else. I also think he's constantly walking that boundary of like, if you're going, I'm going to take as much as I can to try and go make a play in some capacity. We've seen that.
Why would he not do that? Anyway, Nuno is in my ear, our producer. When are we doing this with the Skyline Chili? We want a date.
Okay, so...
Because it was a Bengals bet. You said they were going to make the playoffs. Cece said they wouldn't. Loser has to eat Skyline Chili.
Probably not next week.
Okay.
I'm not here the following Monday because that's after the Pro Bowl. The following Monday, I think we're down in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You won't see me after that for a while. So probably sometime in March.
Wow.
It's very disappointing.
I don't know.
Dan Orlovsky doesn't pay off his debts.
I will pay my bet.
He doesn't pay off his debts?
100%.
Okay.
Was there a timeline on it?
I guess not.
We only have one more day. And I'm not doing it next Monday.
Dan Orlovsky, you'll see him on Get Up. Of course, on First Take, NFL Live as well. We always appreciate it. Thank you for your time. We will dive into the Kansas City-Houston game and obviously what Dan was talking about with Mahomes coming up. We're on Sportsmanlike. It's an easy-to-use mobile app, personalized discounts, and more. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations. Dan Orlovsky is here, ESPN NFL analyst, to talk about, obviously, a great weekend of football. Dan, let's start with this. How should we look at Lamar Jackson right now?
I mean, if you're going to pin last night on Lamar, I think, in my opinion, respectfully, you're a loser. Lamar played awesome again. There is also the reality where we can say, okay, Lamar, you're probably going to have to go through your playoff evolution the way that we've seen Patrick and Josh kind of do it. Like Patrick and Josh are remarkable. They're MVP caliber players. They've had these highs that you're just jaw-dropping play after play after play. But they have realized this. There's this evolution you go through in those win or go home games that maybe the splash play 2, 3, 4 times a game isn't needed, and the splash play is actually throwing the ball away or taking the check down or valuing the football. And because I go to that third down run by Josh last night. I don't know if you guys caught it. Imagine you do when he gets hemmed up near the goal line. He almost decides to lateral it.
Literally just talked about it.
And like 4 years ago,
play of his career.
4 years ago, Josh throws that ball, and you're like, "What on God's green earth did you do there, bud?" So
that's the microcosm of his career, right there. Perfection.
That's the moment.
Yeah,
that's the moment. And I think Lamar will have to go through that, but I don't pin last night on Lamar.
Well, when it comes to quarterback playoff evolution, Jayden Daniels clearly didn't get the memo because this guy, as a rookie, has his team in the conference championship game. How do you contextualize what we've seen from Jayden Daniels this year?
Oh, it's the best rookie season we've seen in the history of the NFL at quarterback. There's no question about it. I mean, to go on the road and do that as well in that environment, I think that the what you're seeing is this accumulation of a young man that was a little bit under-recruited coming out of high school. He goes to an Arizona State, not your traditional power. He has the courage to leave. He walks into LSU, kind of